the petulant child sitting in the Oval Office spent the weekend going back and forth, lying about Maryland Governor Wes Moore. He lied about crime in Baltimore. He lied about the bridge collapse and the funding in Maryland as well. He lied about the National Guard. Then you got these Fox News hacks like Joe Concha saying, oh, that the governor was lying about getting a Bronze Star when actually it was a screw up, and he was eventually awarded that. And this is what you see. Donald Trump attacked Governor Moore, his integrity and his credibility, which is sort of amusing when you hear from somebody who was criminally convicted, who was also found liable for sexual assault, and we could just go on and on and on, and being a tax cheat. So let's just be real clear. If we want to talk about integrity, the person who is lobbing the insults literally has none. Governor Wes Moore joins us right now, and Governor, listen. I remember the scene from American President where they said that there are times for real issues and real people, and that's what we're dealing with. But what we are facing right now, literally, is a petulant, vindictive individual who has no bottom, who has no ethics or morals, and who literally will attack anyone and everyone and no sense of decency whatsoever. And that was exhibited this weekend with his attacks on you.
Yeah, it's just sad because, he's spending all of his time coming at me because he doesn't want to talk about his record. That's the thing I think people should always remember. When he is making these absurd claims. You know why? It's because he doesn't want to talk about the fact that his economic policies are making life more expensive for everybody. He doesn't want to talk about the fact that his trade war is making food more expensive. It is making clothing more expensive. It's making energy prices more expensive. He doesn't want to talk about the fact that his policies are, in the state of Maryland alone, are kicking 250,000 people off of health care. He doesn't want to talk about the fact that his policies have now kicked over 680,000 people off of food assistance. He doesn't want to talk about the fact that he has now laid off over 12,000 Marylanders, fired over 12,000 Marylanders who are federal workers, the largest number of any state in this entire country. He doesn't want to talk about the fact that his policies have cut funding for local law enforcement, for violence prevention groups. His policies have cut funding for gun violence programs. So what do you do when you don't want to talk about it? You actually just lob insults and you try to distract. And he's been doing this his entire life. And so I wasn't terribly surprised when he took to the airways to talk about how he wants to activate the National Guard. Doing something that frankly is not going to be sustainable, is not going to be scalable, is unconstitutional, and also something that is deeply disrespectful to the members of the National Guard. But also then taking it because every time he's talking about nonsense, he's not talking about the fact that his policies are making life more difficult for everybody every single day.
And the thing here is this here. He literally believes that he has the right to do whatever he wants, and you have to have a legal reason to make this move. Normally, the process is that a governor makes the request that goes to the federal government. He believes he can just do whatever he wants when he wants.
So I'm very glad you said that, because people will sometimes refer to the Insurrection Act, right? And that's the justification that he's using to activate the National Guard. And I said, okay, that's fair. But we want to get technical, let's get technical. What is Article 2, Section 3 and Section 1 and 2, and what is Article 4, Section 4 of the Insurrection Act talk about? It actually talks about, to your point, Roland, it talks about the idea that it requires the state to, once they say they have been overrun or they have had all their resources exhausted, that they then have to send a formal letter and invite the federal government to come on board, which is not the case that we have seen for a single time that the president wants to talk about the Insurrection Act. And so you're absolutely right that there's, I've taken a few oaths in my life. I took an oath when I became a soldier and I joined the United States Army. I took an oath when I became the 63rd governor of the state of Maryland, and when I became the commander-in-chief of the Maryland National Guard. I take those oaths seriously. And one of the oaths that I took was that I would always not just protect this country against all enemies, foreign and domestic, but that also as a soldier that I would follow all legal orders. Now, we have to remember that what the president of the United States is doing oftentimes is picking and choosing what parts of the Constitution to follow and pick and choosing which parts of the laws that will actually work to his benefit and to his favor. And so that's why this activation that he's doing of the National Guard is deeply problematic on a collection of different levels. But one of them is that you do not have the authority to be able to make those moves without some type of state ask or some other type of state build. And that's why I've been very clear. I will not authorize the members of the National Guard to be activated if I do not deem, as the commander-in-chief of Maryland's National Guard, if I do not deem them to be mission critical or mission aligned with what's being asked.
The thing was, what I found to be interesting, I had to respond to this idiot Joe Concha on Fox News who was like, Wes Moore lied about a Bronze Star, and you listen to folks like this idiot. If he's a fifth-rate hack, I mean, he's a nobody. But then you have the Donald Trump as well, and I love how these people think that they can tell or they can say talk about the military. Well, they never put the uniform on. When they've never served, they never took that actual oath. And so Mr. Bone Spurs himself, Donald Trump, I mean, give me a break. He ran from service. We know exactly what happened there. And so who is he to understand what the military oath is?
Right. And, and listen, I'm very proud of my service. I'm very proud to have fought on behalf of the country. I'm very proud of the men and women who I serve with, and I know they are proud of me and my service. And I'm proud that to be a decorated combat veteran, to include having received the Bronze Star for my service in Afghanistan, leading paratroopers. And I sometimes you kind of look at who the criticism is coming from. To your point, Roland, I would put my service to this country against Donald Trump's any day of the week. And I really believe that if Donald Trump wants to have a conversation about service to this country, he should really sit this one out, because that's not a debate that I think he wants to have.
Governor Pritzker had a news conference today where he was very adamant about these plans to send National Guard to Chicago. And let's be honest, it was Vice President Kamala Harris warned us about this. Control room let me know we had that soundbite ready. And she warned us. And many of us warned folks, yet people still vote. People still voted. And in fact, I want to play that. This is what Vice President Harris said when she was in Washington, D.C. We were there. White House is in the backdrop. This is what she actually said.
Donald Trump intends to use the United States military against American citizens who simply disagree with him. People he calls, quote, the enemy from within. America, this is not a candidate for president who is thinking about how to make your life better. This is someone who is unstable, obsessed with revenge, consumed with grievance, and out for unchecked power. Donald Trump has spent a decade trying to keep the American people divided and afraid of each other. That is who he is. But America, I am here tonight to say that is not who we are. That is not who we are.
There were people in the media who said, oh my goodness, she's wrong. She shouldn't be saying those things.
You know,
like they owe her an apology.
And I heard that President Trump earlier today said that I told him that he was the greatest president of all time, or some other lie. It was amazing to me, and I said, because if that's the case, I found that really interesting, because when you see how hard I campaigned to make sure that he never got back to that office, because what the vice president was talking about, we are now seeing in living color. You know, there is a seriousness about this job. There's a seriousness about this time that we find ourselves in. There's a seriousness about the fact that the thing that people were hoping for, that this president has no intention of being able to address it. That Donald Trump was a fantastic vessel for the frustration. He was the one who would tell you over and over what's wrong and who's to blame for it and how he was the only one that could fix it. He was the one who by his behavior and by his rhetoric really served as this vessel for people's anger, for the fact that the system did not always work for people. And we should be very honest about being able to say that. I also know this, is that for everybody who is saying that I want to make sure that we are making your communities safer, you want to make your neighborhoods more affordable. You want to make housing and make affordable housing a real option. You want to create pathways for work and wages and wealth. You want to be able to ensure that your children have a chance to inherit something more than debt from you. You want to make sure that you can own more than you owe. You want to make sure that your children can attend a school that's teaching them how not just to be employees, but how to be employers. You want to make sure that your entrepreneurial ideas and hopes can actually be supported. You want to ensure that you have a chance to age in dignity and age in place, that the president of the United States has no desire in making those things happen. And that's the thing that people are seeing right now, where if you look at the policies that have come on board just thus far in these past 8 months, they have made everything more expensive. They've made true wealth creation, unless you are already wealthy and generally and oftentimes generationally wealthy, that's made wealth creation and the chance to own something more unattainable. That's made this country actually owe more in debt than it ever has before. That has made our nation less safe. When you consider the amount of global conflicts that are now going on, that he has had no plan in order to solve, that we are seeing in living color what it looks like when you have someone who does not have a vision for all of us in place, whose idea is you're on your own. And that's really a slogan that they are living by within this administration. And so we're just going to be very clear that in our state, that in Maryland, that in our time, you know, since I've been the governor, we have added over 100,000, we've added around 100,000 new jobs in the state of Maryland, which is more than my predecessor added in 8 years. We've done that in 2.5 years. That we have one of the fastest job growth rates in the entire country. That we've gone from 43rd in the country in unemployment to now having one of the lowest unemployment rates in the entire country for 1.5 years. That Maryland has seen amongst the fastest drop in violent crime of anywhere in the United States of America. And that Baltimore City is now at 50-year lows when it comes to homicides. That we are now watching population increases. That we have made our state the first state in the country that now has a service year option for our high school graduates. And I've signed the largest mass pardon in the history of the United States of America at over 175,000 misdemeanor cannabis convictions pardoned in the stroke of a pen. We are showing that you can give the middle class a tax cut and asking millionaires to pay a little bit more, which is the absolute opposite that we're seeing from the federal administration. We're showing that there is an alternative to the madness and the chaos that we are seeing from this Trump-Vance administration, and showing that in this moment, we will be remembered about how we responded. And I'm proud about how the state of Maryland continues to respond in this moment.
Governor, a couple of quick questions. Trump said this, quote, "I gave Wes Moore a lot of money to fix his demolished bridge. I will now have to rethink that decision." Didn't Biden, Harris give y'all the money?
Yeah, there's nothing that has Donald Trump's signature that has anything to do with the Key Bridge. You know, and I'll never forget that morning when we had a ship the size of 3 football fields slam into our iconic Key Bridge, and you saw a bridge that's almost 2 miles long crumble to the bottom of the Tapsco River, where 13% of our state's economy shut down instantaneously, where thousands of workers lost their job, where we lost 6 construction workers who were fixing potholes in the middle of the night. And we were able to not just return, you know, the remains of the individuals and make sure those families got the closure that they needed. But when they told us it would take 11 months to clear that federal channel, we got it cleared in 11 weeks. And we did it by putting on a case study of what it shows and what it looks like to work together, particularly in times of crisis. And we received 100% cost share between the state of Maryland and the federal government that was passed by both Republican and Democratic members of Congress and signed by the president, Joe Biden. And so there is no money that Donald Trump, quote unquote, gave us as a check, but there is no money that Donald Trump gave us. And so I always tell the people of our state, you cannot take something, we cannot have someone take something away from us when they never gave it to us in the first place. And I'm thankful to the bipartisan members of Congress for their ability to have a vision about what it means to rebuild this country together. And we will continue to work to make them proud in that effort.
Well, Governor, last point here. I saw this tweet from 2 hours ago and wanted to see how sad we are. This country is a black lawyer in D.C., sworn by 20 officers walking down the block. His name is Paul Bryant. He says he's going to press charges against those who assaulted him. He is a West Point graduate, served as an infantry officer in the U.S. Army before starting his legal career. And again, a black man walking down the street, and then he is accosted by federal law enforcement, Metropolitan Police. And I keep warning people, this is going to get worse. If people, and if you can speak to this here, and I've been saying this all across the country. I was in Jackson, Mississippi on Saturday. I was in Milwaukee on Thursday. The only way to stop these people, we have to have massive resistance at the ballot box in 2025 with the state elections, 2026 when it comes to the congressional elections. That is the only way to stop these people. We can't cry about it, tweet about it, put it on TikTok. We must vote these thugs out and have accountability.
That's exactly right. There has to be checks and balances. And you're right. I mean, like when I hear people talk about, well, what are we going to do in 2028 and all, I'm like, listen, what are you doing in 2025? Like, what are you doing right now? What are you doing to make sure that we are standing up and using our voice? What are you doing to make sure that we will not be bullied and we will not be pushed aside? And no, I will not just assume the position when we have a president of the United States and we have an administration who is continually attacking the people of our state. I was very clear with the people of Maryland. I will work with anyone, but I will bow down to no one. And this becomes a moment where we all have to be able to use our voice and say, if you believe in democracy, then start expressing your democratic right. If you believe in this country, then start defending this country. And when we have to make sure that every single race matters to us, every single election matters to us. I don't care if you don't live in Virginia or you don't live in New Jersey. There are two governor's races going on right now in both those two states that we've got to make sure that our voices are heard, because they will rest long after those. I don't care if you happen to live in a jurisdiction in 2026 that has a competitive congressional race. You have to make sure that your voice is heard and that the people who need to win, and the people who need to get voted out are voted out. This becomes a moment when we have to flex our muscle and we have to strengthen our muscle. Because if we don't, we will simply find ourselves going quiet into the darkness. And that's exactly what those who want to oppress you want. So use your voice, respect your democracy, and actually fight for your future.
And as we say, there goes an alpha man. Sorry, Scott Bolden, Lil Kappa, but it's an 06 thing here.
Right. First of all, servants of all, we shall transcend all.
Hey, we shall transcend all. Governor Wes Moore, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
God bless you. God bless y'all. 1-9.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The window to invest in Fanbase is closing. We've raised over $10.6 million of our $17 million goal. That means there's room for less than 6,370 people to invest in Fanbase for the average amount. The minimum to invest in Fanbase right now is $399. That makes you an owner in Fanbase today. Go to startengine.com/fanbase to invest. Why? Because current social apps have taken advantage of users for far too long, with content suppression, shadow banning, harmful racist content, and no real tools for monetization and equity. Fanbase has over 1.4 million users and counting, allowing anyone to reach all their following and monetize their content from day one. Social media is the new TV, and whoever owns the apps that distribute that content have the opportunity to own potential billion-dollar companies. While big platforms with uncertain futures are failing to serve their users, Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now, invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the next generation of social media.